it's okay. It's just on the surface. Everything is you overthinking right now, or nobody looking at you like that. Nobody worrying about that. You being way hard on yourself right now, girl. We
Hmm.
all going through that. Yeah, to pull you back too, because you are very
Right.
hard on yourself. So I feel like it's a balancing act. But that's
Hmm.
what a healthy relationship is. It's a balancing act.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Trafficking Free America podcast, where I am your host, Oree Freeman. And today we have a very, very special guest, none other, my girl, my bestie, Irony Senegal.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I'm excited to have you on here. One of the things why I asked you to join the podcast was because, we are a anti-human trafficking organization. And we do a lot of not only awareness, intervention, and different services that we provide directly to survivors, but we're really big on education and really equipping people with the tools. And so I brought you on here because I really want our audience, not just our typical audience, but our audience for women or individuals who have been exploited, to talk about friendships, navigating friendships, navigating a healthy friendship and what that looks like, being open to transparency. And so, how about you share how we met, and then I share my perspective on how we met, because it's always two sides to a story, of course.
Yes, I'll love to share. Yeah, I think
Okay.
it'll be cool to compare.
Okay.
So, I met Ori at church, and they had this program that was called Spiritual Growth, and I was like, man, that's something I want to sign up for. That sounds like a great way to just get acclimated, becoming a new church member. And I thought maybe it also could be a really nice way to meet people, organically meet people that you're on the same path and you're pursuing the same things with. So we had a brief or a mini orientation before we made the commitment, and Ori was there, and she definitely stood out. So it was maybe like a group of what, like 6 7 of us in the
Hmm.
circle, and the facilitator was like, hey, I just want to be able to educate you guys on what this commitment really looks like to see if it's a good fit for you. And Ori was like, I got a question. And I'm like, okay. And then as soon as she started talking, she had a little swag. So I'm like, where is this girl from? She's like, I'm from LA. And we in the South, we're a little country. We sound a little different. She was fast talking and just had this spunk to her. And I'll never forget, your first question was like, listen, I'm not here to waste my time. Are we really serious about pursuing Jesus? Are we really gonna be growing and holding each other accountable? Because, it's just me and my daughter out here, and I'm very protective of the people I have in my life, and I just want to make sure that this is something that's gonna be worth investing into. And I just you were a complete stranger, but I just grew a tremendous amount of respect for you in that moment, because immediately it was a boundary that was set. Because a lot of people, we think about those questions but we don't ask because we're afraid of how we're going to be perceived. But it was appreciated because I felt the same exact way. And then from then on, we started doing spiritual growth together. And we still wasn't like sitting by each other or just talking immediately. But as we were sharing points in the conversation, we noticed that we had a lot in common. And we were really serious about our walk with God and getting closer to Christ. And after one day after class, she was like, I'm going to sit by you. I said, well, come on in. Well, come on. Well, we about to go to church. Sit by me then. And then we sat together and we was like, tell me a little bit more about you. And it was just a really pleasant exchange. And my mother was there. And then you were like, so what y'all doing after this? I was like, we're going to eat. She's like, I like to eat. Can I come? I was like, yeah, girl, come on. So, and then ever since then, we just been kicking it. And honestly, it's just been, you have been a tremendous blessing in my life. And I can for sure say hands down that your friendship, you come from God. And because I met
Mm.
you as I was pursuing God. So that's just, I feel like that's really what makes our friendship really unique, you know. But that's my side.
It's so crazy because hearing you share where I was and where I can be at one point, because outside of my work, I do this whole anchor thing about
Mhm.
being anchored in Christ. And I'm not always like that. And so to hear how you see me at a point where I didn't see myself like that, having a boundary, being serious about the Lord, and I was, but I
Yeah,
didn't know how somebody else could see me. Because I always struggle with seeing myself and giving myself some time to pat on the back because I'm my biggest critic.
yeah.
Um, but I remember that when we met in particular, I'll never forget the day. Now, mind you, y'all, Irony is sharp. When I say sharp, honey, like baby dresses down, okay? Like
Oh
she
gosh.
don't leave the house without being 100%. And I'll tell you when I'll give you a little bit more context to that, because people could typically be like, "Well, you don't always feel like that." But she's like, "No, you don't never leave the house like that. Like you always show up for yourself at 100%." And so that's a lesson, and we'll talk about a little bit about more of those lessons, that these huge lessons that she's taught me within our friendship. But she would come up in there sharp. I mean, honey would be dressed to the T, baby. Okay.
Oh,
And she would come in there and she was just prepared. You know, even though I was serious about the Lord, I mean, Irony would have all of her homework done. I probably did about two scriptures. She did the whole page, the whole 3 pages. Okay. And I would still have my excuses on to why I had to do this, I had to do that, but I did do something. And that's yeah, that was me. And so I seen her dedication, her discipline. It was your discipline that was just like, it caught my eye. And then I'll never forget the day we were talking about books.
yeah,
And it wasn't like the large topic everybody else was talking about books. We were
no.
talking about current things we were reading. And I was reading a book by John Bevere called The Awe of God. And you were reading it too. And it is a serious book because it's about the fear of the Lord. And so I'm like, oh, she reading that. Oh, she a heavy hitter. Like she's serious about God, like the obedience of God, and that's not a typical book most people don't want to read because it's not just in your face. It brings a lot of conviction, but the seriousness and the holiness of the Lord. And so I'll just never forget when I heard you say that. It's only been a couple times in my life where I've looked at somebody and was like, whatever it is that they have, God, I want it. And not like in this, oh, I want that. It was inspiring. Like, okay, I need to know who she is. I wanna be her friend. Not necessarily you think that, but you like, I wanna be, I want it. And I remember another relationship was like that was with Leah. When I
Yeah,
first met her, like not even saved yet. And I was like, what is that light about her? And you had a light about you too. And I just was like, okay, Lord, like I like her. Like I want to be her friend. And it was supernatural. It was super. And then I'll never forget when we went out to eat. Your mother, from the first conversation, it was the first time I experienced somebody being protective over my heart and over me. And I don't know if you remember that conversation. She was like, but you don't let we were talking about friendships, and
oh
I
yeah,
could
we
just feel
were,
her
we were.
sincerity about, no, you don't do that. You don't allow people to do that to you. You don't deserve that. Like I felt it in my core. Um, and from the jump, you both have just been sincere and authentic. And then the crazy part of us, what you all don't know, is that a couple years ago, probably about what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because Evelyn wasn't born yet. I got called to Texas to speak at a federal institution. And that was through a friend, and that friend I'm still connected with from out here. And it just was a God thing. Well, Mama, her mother, I just call her Mama Faye. She's in the class and she's like, I remember you. I
She was
know
like,
you
I
from
know
somewhere. I'm like,
you. I
I
know
know
you.
you. And I'm like, you don't know me. I'm not from Texas. You don't know me. I'm not from Texas. She was like, no, I know you. And she said she gave her job's name. And I was like, yes, I spoke there. And she was like, that's you. And it's crazy because when I went back in the email recently, remember Irony?
Yeah,
I
you
found
did.
a
You
very,
came across the email that she
Mhm.
sent you. One of y'all didn't respond, but
Yeah,
I think she sent you like, man, you did a great job or something like
yep. She emailed me and said, hey, you did a great job. She wanted to connect, outside of that. And I followed up with her. Mom didn't follow back up with me. But
that. That's
it's
typical.
okay because that's mama's heart though. Like that's Miss Faith's heart. And it has always been. And so just to think how God brought back an experience to now a relationship and a friendship. And that was the core, that was the start of our friendship. But I think what has been life changing for me is the way you have loved me and the way that you have shown up for me. And I want you to share with the audience.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the time, but you know what? What is it like being a friend to somebody who's experienced all that I have experienced, all the trauma and everything? What is it like for you?
What is it like for me? I don't feel like that's a challenging question because we speak from where we are, but from the get-go, I made the decision when we first met to just to get to know you and your heart and not to allow your trauma or your past pain define you. Um, so for me, I would say it requires patience and understanding, but what relationship, what friendship doesn't, you know?
Mm,
We talk about all the time. I feel that because I have so little trauma, I forget that you have trauma, honestly, so I feel that God definitely had a role with, okay, I want to put somebody in her life that just sees Oree and not sees her story all the time. Someone that just sees Oree, not the story, just you and your love and where you currently are. And not what you used to do or who you used to be, but just who are you becoming and being a part of that journey. Because, I feel like sometimes it could become a hindrance or discouraging to have someone around you that's always reminding you of something that you're trying to grow from, or maybe a hurtful experience that you're trying to heal from. So I feel like our friendship is very healing. It's very healing for me. Um, it's very inspiring for me. You, the way that you show up unapologetically yourself, just encourages me to do the same thing. I tell you all the time, you are the type of woman that you make other women feel comfortable being themselves and not having to apologize for it. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say that being your best friend requires anything that a healthy relationship doesn't require. It
mm,
requires time, investing time, being present, um, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, leading with a heart of understanding instead of thinking I got it all figured out. And knowing that we do come from two different walks of life and being able to say, hey, I'm willing to grow with you and see, I never thought about certain things like that, and sometimes I feel
mm.
naive and you're often teaching me things and saying, hey friend, actually, maybe that's not a good idea. Or maybe we shouldn't go there. Or, you know, so I'm like, oh, really? So I feel like sometimes I'm a little green with some things, but you
Mm.
definitely help me navigate this world from a different lens. And that's, to me, that's just forever a gift. And then I feel like for you, I remind you that not everything that deep, you know,
Mhm.
sometimes it's okay. It's just on the surface. Everything is you overthinking right now, or nobody looking at you like that. Nobody worrying about that. You being way hard on yourself right now. Girl, we
Mhm.
all going through that. So yeah, to pull you back too. because you are very
Right.
hard on yourself. So I feel like it's a balancing act. But
Yeah.
that's what a healthy relationship is. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, it's almost like everything you saying is like there's no coming into the relationship, the friendship, there was no label, and typically I
No.
think, and I shared this with you. Do you remember when we went on our walk
Which
and
one? We went on many.
yeah, the one when you asked me about you couldn't believe I think something had happened to me or something. I can't remember the details, but it was life changing for me because of your response. Like it was I
Really?
can't remember, we were talking about I think maybe the sexual abuse or something, and you couldn't even imagine that happened to me. Or I think you asked a question like I don't really ask you because I don't know. I can't remember fully. I didn't. That's why I was asking you. Do you remember the walk when we had like this moment where you said you don't ask me about my trauma, or I don't really know. I haven't even looked you up or anything or something like
No.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we had a conversation. Well, let's talk about when I went with you to Miami.
Okay.
And
Okay.
uh that was really the first time that, you know, I've heard your testimony told in that way. Because yeah, so kind of circling back to what you said, because you're like, have you seen my YouTube videos? And have you? I'm like, no, girl, I have not seen. I do not be looking you up. You my friend. Like,
Mm,
I'm gonna get to know you organically. I'm gonna get to know you. I feel like there's also a certain peace that comes with our relationship because I know God has you in my life. So
mhm,
it's like I don't need to fact check God. I don't need to double, hey, are you sure? Or let me
mm,
make sure, or let me, like, no, like, I know where you come from. I know you're a gift, and I'm willing to organically allow our friendship to continue to grow, and be protected and to blossom. But yeah, I remember you was like, yeah, did you hear about my testimony, or did you? I got videos on YouTube, and I was like, girl, no, I don't. Yeah, and I told you I was like, if you don't tell me something, then I ain't gonna
mhm,
know, and I'm not gonna ask nobody else either because I feel like whenever you feel you ready to say something or is appropriate in a certain type of conversation, I'll let you have it. But when we went to Miami, and you're like, you gonna come with me to Miami? I gotta, I have a training. I was like, sure, girl, I'm down for Miami. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna be giving my whole testimony. And I was like, okay. And she was like, all right, it's gonna be a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm good. We're gonna be good. And I heard it, and I was like, wow. I was not as far as it was a lot. It was just like, man, like to hear your testimony from start to finish and to see you in real time
mhm,
using those things to help other people, to see you in your calling, using your gifts, like it was just incredibly inspiring. Yeah. I feel like we all have different roles in people's lives.
mhm,
I'm not, I'm not called to show up as your therapist. I'm just called to be your friend.
mm,
And I know I can't take all your pain away, but I can authentically show up and love you for you and be
mhm.
a consistent person in your life. So I just was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just continue to love you. Then after you was like, so how'd you feel? That was a lot. What did I tell you? Do you remember?
Nuh-uh. What'd you tell me?
I just was like, yeah, it was a lot. You hungry?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Wanna go to the movies
Yeah, and it was relaxing, and it was the biggest thing that I really wanted people to know is that me and your relationship, is for sure, like you said, is ordained by God, but it has been such a healing journey for me too, because even just recently for your birthday, we were driving up to what we were in
Austin?
Austin,
Yeah.
and her mother, I was kind of venting about Evelyn and my parenting style, or how Evelyn's showing up right now at the time at 6 years old. And Miss Faith, her mother was just like, I'm about to say something with love. But how she's showing up and her tone is how you show up, is how you talk. And so those are hard conversations for people
Yeah.
to receive. I could easily get defensive. I could easily, like I have before with people, get defensive or, you know, make my point on why I'm right, or, and I was able to receive it because I know y'all love me,
Right.
or things that when we went to California and y'all, I get in the car and I'm like, hey, what's up? Good morning. Or what you doing?
Oh
And
yeah. And then you got mad. Let me tell y'all this story. Okay, so we in California, we got some business going on, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go pick up my girl. She gonna be at the airport. And I'm really, I'm the type of person, we don't drive the same. I'm not in a rush. Like, I take my time with it. They call me granny driver or whatever. We always make it to where we gotta go. But she from a big city, so she just move faster. She think faster, she move faster. I move slower. Uh so she called me. She's like, I'm here, I landed. Now keep in mind, I've never actually driven to the LAX. So I'm just like, okay, it's a lot going on, but I'm gonna figure it out. And I get there, and apparently it's just like a drive. You just keep on. There's no parking spots. It's just a road. And I'm like, hold on a second. So then I passed her up just a little bit, and then I park, or I got to the side of something, and she was like, she gonna come in the door, swing it all open, was like, well, you don't know how to drive. See what you doing? You don't know what you doing. You just passing me up. Like, what you got going on? I say, well, good morning. Hello. How are you? Thank you for picking me up from the airport. See, and then she gonna close the door. Well, I guess I gotta get an Uber. I'm in the car. Get in this car. I said, friend, this is the first time I'm seeing you in weeks. You think I want to be, the first thing come out your mouth is some fussing? Acknowledge I'm here for you. I didn't woke up early. I don't like to get up early, and I love you. I'm here. I'm happy to see you. And then she was like, "You right. I'm sorry." I just was
mhm,
like, but those little moments, but even in a time of like disagreement or me holding her accountable for something, it's about how you talk to somebody. You don't have to be disrespectful. The tone doesn't have to go up, but you can still make your point across. And that's just how I communicate. It's not always what you want to hear, but you can still communicate with people with respect and with love.
mhm. And there's no title to that. Like so many people would probably say, "Well, you're just trauma informed, Irony." No, she ain't trauma
I'm not
informed. That's
trauma
just the
informed.
way
Yeah.
she loves. That's the way that she communicates because it's healthy. And so sometimes we try to put these labels on how we show up in our relationships or in our friendships and make it this, like you've taught me that, like I will make everything a big deep thing. And no, it's really simple. It's just that's how people communicate healthy. That's how they establish a relationship. And it doesn't have to have these titles or attached to someone's trauma or because, you've been through something, I need to respond a certain way. No, that's how people show up in love the right way. One of the things too you had mentioned about the fast pace, and that's a lesson too you taught me was how to slow down. That's something I'm still learning, but I've gotten better at it. It's slowing down because I'm quick. I'm quick. Like I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next thing, and it affects our listening. It affects being present with the people that you're with, and I'm grateful for that. I'm super grateful for that lesson. There's been so many things that you have just taught me. You know, more recent. You guys, I can get super stubborn. Not stubborn like my way or the highway in a way, but respectfully, but like, nah, I ain't doing that. And she was talking about how she wanted to raise her family
Oh
and
yeah, when
how
we first
she
met.
wanna, homeschool, how she wanted to sit on a porch with chickens in the backyard, right? I'm
She thought
bringing
that was
this up.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. I thought it was crazy. Like chickens, girl, what? Homeschool. But now I'm in this season, and it's super important as we're navigating seasons on what season you in, because you ain't been there yet. I wasn't there yet. Now having 3 kids and now dealing with the school system, I'm like, Eh, I might need a homeschool teacher because I know that's not my gift. I'm not homeschooling, but if I had the resources to have a teacher come teach my children, I would, because some of them need a different need than what the other ones. They have a need that that needs to be met, and where they're currently at is not going to meet that. Or I wanted this big life. And now I'm like, well, maybe I need to take a couple chickens and just live on a farm or something. That's how life feel right now in my mind. But the reason I share that is because she also does you come with a fresh perspective that I've never experienced before. I've never experienced the perspective of being able to slow stuff down. You are super not only articulate, but very thoughtful about what you say. I'll ask you something, and you'd be like, I need to think about that before you speak. And I know this for the audience, it sounds like, why are we? Because those are skills that a lot of us don't have. Social boundaries. You'll tell me, like, all right, friend, I'm off the phone. Bye. To
Yeah.
where I'm done. And not like in a bad or a rude way, but you're super disciplined with your time, super disciplined in your health, discipline in your business. And those are attributes of, Proverbs 31 woman, of course. But all these things, that the seeds that you are giving me that's getting planted in my life, you know, teaching me that everything is not about my trauma,
Right.
teaching me that you don't have to love somebody based on their story. You love me because of how I show up and who I am today. And even in my flaws, even in my moments that I cry to you, even in my convictions, you still love me. And you always lead with truth, with the word of God. And in that response, you've also just allowed me to be a friend, like really enjoy safe fun and be loved. There's been times when you and your mom, I can get super hyper vigilant. And I don't know if anybody else that's watching can relate to this, but I could do things. It's like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, or, thank you so much. And it's like, we got you.
Yeah.
That's
Moms
why we
always tell
here.
you that, like, girl, you good. Like, it's a
Because
gift.
it is this fear of losing
Yeah.
something that's good. Because I've dealt with abandonment, because I've dealt with rejection, and we all have in some capacity, but having that safety. And then I remember, um, the last thing I'll talk about with you with that piece is, do you remember what mom shared with your mom shared with you about me and our friendship?
In the beginning,
Yeah, the conversation she had with you about
yeah.
our friendship. What did she say?
She, this was like after we went out to eat. Um, and we just kind of had a powwow. And my mom was like, listen, you know, Oree, she's very gifted and she's something special. And I just want you to know that if you're going to be her friend and be in her life, you need to consistently show up because she's been through a lot. And you just need to make sure that you handle her like a gift. And you know, basically just not to simplify what I'm saying. It's just that you've been through enough. You don't need no one playing games with you or showing up 50%, sometimes 70%. You need somebody that wants to be in your life. Um, and it's a pleasure to be there, not a chore or not a responsibility or not you not showing up due to obligation. And yeah, she was like, you need to she's been through a lot. She's been through a lot of hard things because at that point I still didn't know your testimony. She mom heard you speak because like you said, you went to her job and she was so moved by, your testimony and you speaking that's why she emailed you. And I'm just like thinking like, oh, she's just this cool girl and we love Jesus, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited. And she's like, no, it's a bit more to that. And I was like, well, of course, mom, I'm a good friend. I'm a good person. You don't have to worry. But she did. She was like, I just don't play with her. Her heart is fragile. And I just appreciated that. And then when she told you, she said that, I know that made you emotional. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just, She already we've already, it's like when we initially met, we already had a certain amount of love for you that just continued to, God just continued to grow and grow and grow. But yeah, she was just like, just don't play, this is not somebody you want to play games with, and you're gonna have to be patient about some things.
Mm.
And I just was like, I got this.
You
So
know, and I really did. And I still get emotional when I hear it because for so long, a lot of survivors and just, women and young girls that experience, and even young men and young boys, there's a lack of protection. And when you hear somebody that have not known you for 15 years or this long period of time willing to protect your heart is something that's a gift.
yeah,
It's very rare. And so, individuals who are choosing to do this kind of work or choosing to even be friends, if somebody is listening that has experienced, all that I've experienced and even more, is be willing to receive love, be open to it, you
yes,
know, be open to it, because that's something that I've had to learn, is to have my hands open, be willing to receive it, be willing to learn, because although we have been through a lot, that's not the end of it. I have had to learn some serious boundaries with you guys that you all taught me, with my time, how I show up, not overdoing myself, because I'm used to doing that because
right,
of somebody that has been used for money and used for people's personal gain. It's easy for me to try to overcompensate, and you and mama be like, no. You and your mama be like, no, you don't have to do that.
you
We
don't have to
got it.
do all of that. Yeah,
You ain't got to do all that to be here, to be loved. And so I'm reminded of that. And then the way that y'all love my daughter, it's so important for individuals to have community, but that's for everybody. It's not just for people that have been exploited, and sexually abused. It's really for anybody to have community, to have somebody that's holding you accountable, to have people that are loving you, having people that show up for you consistently. And I'm just grateful that you've been a really great friend to me, and you still are. And the last thing I'll say about friendship is, if you have unhealthy people around you or people that you've trauma bonded with, you want to be mindful of those things, because you were a part of my life that was the new chapter
yeah,
of what God wanted to do. And there's still some old chapters that's still there, that are still good, that are still juicy. But I'm very mindful that there's a season in place, and I want people to know there's a season in time. Hey everyone, that concludes our episode for part 1 with Irony. Make sure that you tune in for our next episode drop, which is going to be a part 2. All right, looking forward to seeing you there.